back. Episode 23 of Griddyiron Gang. Today we'll be wrapping up Week 10 with our Monday Night Football recap, and then we'll take a look ahead to Week 11 and make our picks for those games. Start off with Thursday Night Football or Monday Night Football recap. We had the Washington Commanders on the road to face the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles. When we were finishing up our recording yesterday, Philly was up in this game 14-7. That was all the points they scored for the rest of the first half. The Commanders ended up taking a 20-14 lead into halftime after a 58-yard field goal as time was expiring. The first deficit the Eagles were facing going into the half this season. So definitely something they haven't seen before, facing some challenges they haven't seen before, and facing some unfamiliar territory. Coming out of the second half, same uncharacteristic plays, uncharacteristic turnovers. Jalen Hurts, big completion to Quez Watkins down the field, gets up off the turf, chased down from behind, fumbles the ball. The third of 4 Philadelphia turnovers. Yep. The fourth one coming later in the game, but they do have a chance to win this game later. 3rd and 8. They have Washington stopped. Heineke gives himself up for a sack. Late hit by Brandon Graham. Tough. It's a tough way to lose the game. That's under 2 minutes and essentially running the clock out now. You do have a chance late. You're running a little, flea flicker, hook and ladder type situation, but you end up throwing that into the end zone, giving the Commanders a touchdown, giving them 32 points to your 21 points, and you are suffering your first loss on the season.
Yeah, talking about that Brandon Graham hit on Heineke, there's not much you could do with that, but at the same time, that's the rule, and you gotta be able to kind of hold up somehow. I don't know how, but
that is tough.
It's a tough way to go out. I think they just kind of shot themselves in the foot one too many times last night.
Yeah.
But the name of the game was ball control. Washington had a great game plan last night, and they kind of took it to Philadelphia in the sense that they just dominated time of possession, 40 minutes to 19 minutes. And they just kept the ball out of Philadelphia's hands, so they had no opportunity. And Philadelphia is a team who they like to methodically drive down the field on you and control the ball and score that way. But another thing is, Philly, that whole first half, they had a game plan with their defense relying on the front four to generate pressure and get to Heineke while playing coverage. And that just didn't work out. They gave Heineke too much time as they couldn't generate the pressure they thought they could. And it just gave them enough time to make some key plays, when they had those long drives going on. But and they weren't able to force Heineke to make mistakes. And the Eagles, to me, once again, they showed that they can start really fast in the first half, but they slow way down in the second. This season they're averaging 19.4 points and 234 yards in the first half alone. Mm-hmm. And then you get to the second half, they're averaging 7.9 points and 142.8 yards in the second half. That's a big discrepancy in play style and what you're able to do. And that's going to kill you down the stretch as we go down the stretch and into postseason play. That's not going to be acceptable for them to get to the Super Bowl or possibly win it. So that's something that needs to be addressed and changed fairly quickly if they're going to maintain this, easy schedule that they have, because they do. To me, they've been blessed with the type of schedule they've got this year. And it's just like that. When we were going over the schedule a couple weeks ago, you asked me, where do you see their first loss? I didn't have an answer for you because I couldn't.
This wasn't it.
No, it wasn't one of them. But it just goes to show you that any team can come in and beat any team at any given time. It was, wasn't a Thursday night game where I've been talking about those being a toss-up, and especially with division games on Thursdays, that those are kind of, more, you don't know what's going to happen. But this being Monday night prime time, you get an extra day in the week to prepare, and Philly just played their worst game of the season. And I think Washington kind of gave people the blueprint on how to beat them. Not saying it's going to be easy to follow that and do it, but it's out there now, because I'm noticing that Philly is very susceptible to the run game on defense, especially with Jordan Davis out.
Yeah.
And if you can control the ball and have an effective running game against them, and then hit them with some home run shots, they're definitely beatable. The officiating was terrible last night once again, and that's been a common theme this year as it has in the past, but it's just continually to getting to the point where I'm noticing it more and more. I mean, you have I didn't like the Jahan Dotson offensive pass interference call at the end of the game. To me, that wasn't him purposely going and picking a guy to create room for the other guy downfield. He has the right off the line of scrimmage to run his route. So that was, to me, a bullshit call.
I agree.
Now the other one, and this was a non-call, and we've been seeing a lot of bad non-calls. I don't know what the refs were looking at on the field when there was a blatant face mask on that Goddard fumble.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was blatant. Everyone saw it except the refs. There's no excuse for that. You're paid $200,000 each week to do a job, and you're just going out there and doing half-ass work. So for me, I have a problem with the officiating that's going on these days, and I hope it's addressed somehow. My other point is the Carson Wentz era in the NFL is officially over as a starter. I'm not, coming out and saying it's due to Heineke, being much better, because he's far from perfect, and his numbers aren't that much better than Wentz, but it goes to show, like I said, when Wentz went down, like, I wouldn't be surprised if this team plays a lot better because they've experienced the whole season with Heineke as their starter. They know what to expect with him. They're comfortable with him. They gel more with him. And it showed last night too with Terry McLaurin. Like, he balled out, had a great game.
Yeah. And
that's due to him having chemistry with Heineke. So it would be a huge mistake for Rivera to revert back to Carson Wentz. And I think going forward, the only deals that Wentz is going to get are, low offers for backup positions.
Like, what if Rodgers leaves Green Bay?
I'd welcome him to start in Green Bay.
I know you would.
But I just think too many teams have the tape on him now on how poorly he's played each year. He had an okay year with Indy last year, but he faltered big time down the stretch.
I hear you.
It's just been, ever since he got that injury in Philly, he hasn't been the same.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't know if it's a mental block in his head or what the deal is, but it's infuriating to have him trot out on the field as a starter and watch the performances he has, because he's not a starter. He's not a quality starter. He's just not. I would trust him as, a backup that needs to start 1 or 2 games for me, but that's about it.
When he's unprepared for, he can be dangerous. So
that
might be his role.
He's got some talent, but to me, he's one of the higher end backups in this league that you look for.
I guess we'll see. Whether he's healthy or not, I think Heineke has the job going forward. They're now 500.
They're rolling.
You can't
they
give it
got
up
a
at this
playoff
point.
spot on the line.
Yep. Back to the game, though. I think it really started. The tone of the game changed with this Jalen Hurts turnover early. He did have 2 touchdowns, but like you said, Washington did a very good job of managing the clock. 40 minutes, you said?
Yeah.
I know their third down conversions were crazy. I don't know how many they had, but their percentage was high.
I was about to write the stat down, but I didn't get that on.
I think last I seen it was like 12 or 16 or something crazy like that.
They were definitely very efficient on third down. And they had timely plays on third downs for sure. But it had. Let's put it this way: that Washington defense is something serious. That front seven, you got Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne just tearing shit up front, up the middle, like. And then when you get Chase Young back, you're gonna feel even more confident with that front seven. So they're a team I'm not too high on, but I'm not gonna be shocked if they somehow snatch a 7 seed. They're in a very tough division this year.
They are,
and
it's unlikely all 4 teams get in there,
but it's possible, and there's a road to it. But
they have a legit number 1 receiver, 2 good running backs, a quarterback that's not going to make too many mistakes. He did fumble, have a pick, but he does play well. The team trusts him. Good defense. The D-backs, Fuller and St. Juice is looking really
He's
good,
really
bro.
nice, bro.
He's looking real nice.
For me, it's like they just went out. This game that you just beat the lone undefeated team who's been everyone's number one team this year so far. You just went out, proved something against them, beat them, and
On the road.
And now you should have all the confidence in the world to go into any game and not fear any team because you know you can beat the best of the best. So to have to play the Giants, the Cowboys, and them, like you could hurt their playoff chances if you don't get in. Like you're that type of team. So and since those are division games, and if say Washington doesn't, they fall too far behind where they can't get in, they're going to be out to ruin seasons and ruin seeding.
They're a perfect candidate for that. I mentioned Arizona as being a team like that when they get Marquise Brown and when they get Robbie Anderson more acclimated. But Washington's really a good candidate for that. They're already 500. They have a good defense, unlike Arizona. They believe in their quarterback and they trust the offense. So I don't know if they'll sneak in, but they can definitely ruin some teams.
Man.
They can definitely ruin a perfect record too.
I'm just glad we played them when we did because having to play them down the stretch that's a tough team. They're not easy out.
Especially after that win right there. We did have Smith and Goddard. They had a touchdown each, but Brown had one catch for 7 yards. He did leave hobbled. Came back into the game though, but not really much of a factor. Is that a lot of St. Juice putting the work down, the defensive scheme, a little bit of both? I mean, we know Ron Rivera is a defensive guy. That's how Carolina. I mean, obviously Cam Newton had MVP level season, was the MVP, but that was really his calling card in Carolina the whole time he was there.
Here's the thing: is Philly they're a team that they have the potential to be able to score quickly, or the ability, I mean, but they're more of a team that wants to drive on you, hold the ball, and hit you in certain ways, just methodically and methodically beat you. Like they're not built like the Bills or the Chiefs to go down and strike quick in 40 seconds.
I think Jalen Hurts, quarterback sneak, Goddard, 6-yard touchdown, Devontae Smith,
it always, like I said
touchdown.
last night, it always seems like they're scoring within the 15, 10-yard line.
Right.
So that means that they either got a turnover in that area or they completely drove on you to get to that point of being able to score in that short range. So for me, it's just, I don't know. People have been wanting to crown Philly, and that's all well and fine. They've been undefeated.
Crown their ass.
Best start in franchise history, I think it is.
If not, it was tied for it.
It was proven last night that they're beatable.
Yeah.
And so you just have to, they're a team. I mean, everything's going to be on tape come playoff time. So it's going to be how teams study and how they game plan against them. And it's going to really hurt them. If Goddard has to go on IR for 4 games, that hurts their offense big time.
Big time.
Because he's a huge part in that middle of the field.
For sure.
And red zone. So you take that away from him, and then all you got to focus on is AJ and Devontae pretty much. Quez Watkins, he's a solid player who can make plays.
Yeah.
More of a speed burner, I think. But you got Devontae and AJ, the two primary guys, and I think they benefit a lot from Goddard being in the lineup because he takes a lot of attention in that middle of the field. And I'm, as good of, I wouldn't even say they have a really good running game. It's just the system they have. Being able to benefit from having Hurts' ability back there and pair it with Miles Sanders and Gainwell, that it works well for them. And it catches teams off guard at points. But you take Goddard away, and he's a really good blocker as well. And, I'm not too worried about Miles Sanders or their running backs because they're not
at all.
They're not tearing teams up with the run game. It's more of Jalen Hurts being able to use his legs, and he's just been very accurate this year with his passes. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, they're a good team by all means, but they are beatable. They're not just going to go and win the Super Bowl just because they started 8-0.
No question. To your point of them being beatable, Washington had the formula. You mentioned it earlier. Heineke, just over 200 yards. Control the clock, 49 rush attempts. I mean, weren't very effective, but they leaned on that a lot, and they at least made them stay true. A lot of 3 yards, short yardage gain. I mean, they averaged, under 4 a carry, but 49 carries for 152 yards, you're going to keep the offense off the field. And
they're a defense you can wear down.
Yeah.
And even when they had Jordan Davis in the lineup, they were right around or just below average in the run defense.
Mm-hmm.
It's been their pass defense that's been really great.
Yeah, those DBs, and then I think Chauncey Gardner-Johnson leads the league with 6 interceptions now.
6 interceptions in 5 games.
Yeah.
So that's top notch. I mean, you can't ask for any better than that. But it's the name of the game when we get to this point of the season and moving forward is being able to run the ball.
It's getting cold out.
You get cold weather games. I mean, you can get away with that in domes and warm weather, but when it gets cold, and you even play at home in the cold, so you have to be very efficient and have to be able to stop other teams from running on you. But especially with Jordan Davis out, they've gotten worse in defending the run. So and I don't know how long he's out for. I don't, but even when he's in there, he does a great job at certain points, but he's not that big of a difference maker up the middle right now as a rookie to slow down the run like they want to. So going from average run defense to even worse run defense, that's a cause for concern.
And you're not the only team in the division that has a pretty bad run defense, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Is there anything else on this game before we get to these picks?
No, just credit to Washington for pulling off a miracle, I guess, because I would have never expected, when we got off, I went up and I turned it on. I was like, I'm not saying a word. I'm not going to jinx this, keep this train rolling because I don't want to see no 17-0 Philadelphia Eagle team. But I kind of knew, though. I was like, at some point they're going to have to lose because it's so hard to go undefeated in this league.
It is.
So, I mean, they ran into a bad game and they've also... To be able to only have 3 turnovers through 8 games is unheard of.
Yeah.
So that if the tide starts turning a little bit, where they're kind of averaging 1 to 2 turnovers a game, like a lot of teams do, then we're going to see a different Eagles team because we're going to see what they're made of.
Mm-hmm.
They've been blessed with not turning the ball over, and that's what wins games.
Right.
So.
And health, and now
so it's
some guys are
it's
falling.
going to be
too.
interesting to see how their team that they have built over there, how they respond going forward.
No question. Now, week 11 picks. Moving on to week 11, we have 4 teams on the bye: Jacksonville, Miami, Geno in Seattle, Tom in Tampa. First game, Thursday Night Football. Tennessee Titans at 6-3 on the road facing the Green Bay Packers, coming off a big win, possibly saving their season, getting them to 4-6 after 5 straight losses. Gonna be a little bit of a slugfest. I think Packers might have found their way to win these games, run the ball. We know that's Tennessee style with Derrick Henry in the backfield. I'm gonna have to go with Green Bay 2 in a row in this one, though. Yeah,
I have this is the Packers for me, and this game just comes down to Packers home field advantage at Lambeau, colder weather. Like you said, they're finally utilizing Jones and Dillon how they're meant to be using that type of offense, and they kind of realized that against Dallas, who's a good defense. And I do think Tennessee has a solid run defense, but I just think that Jones and Dillon will carry the Packers to a W in this one. And let's just be real though. Green Bay is going to be challenged by Henry in that run game because Green Bay does allow 140 yards per game on the ground. And so this is why, like you said, slugfest type of game. It's just going to I believe it's going to be close. It's going to come down to, I think, a late field goal. But I do have the Packers in this one, and like I said, that last game was possibly a game changer for them in turning their season around and getting hot at the right time and squeaking in.
The schedule is tough, and this is one of their easier games left, facing the 6-3 division leader in the Titans, but for sure a game that they have to get.
Yeah.
7 games is the maximum L's they can take if they want to have a playoff spot.
And I just trust this Packers pass defense over this lackluster pass offense of Tennessee. So
Yeah.
Derrick Henry's going to have a really solid go off type of game to win this one.
Next, we have Chicago at 3-7 on the road at Atlanta, 4-6. For this game here, I think it's going to be a battle of who's going to run the ball more, who's going to be more effective in the run game. Both teams very shy to throw the ball. Not going to do that, more than 25 times a game. Going to run with their quarterbacks, and they're definitely going to hand it off to a dual backfield, running back by committee. Throw each other playmakers when they have to. If that's going to be the formula for this game, I'm going to have to go with Chicago Bears in this one. I think Atlanta's going to be losers of 3 in a row. Probably going to be out of playoff contention after this one. But I just feel like if that's going to be the way this game is going to go, Justin Fields and Herbert and those guys, Montgomery, way too dynamic in that backfield in that run game.
Yeah, I also have the Bears. This is going to be another close one, I think. But they're 2 of the 3 worst passing offenses in the league. And it comes down to, for me, I think they're going to have a very hard time stopping Fields and him using his legs to create plays because he's much more dynamic and effective at doing that than Mariota is, even though he's capable of it. But I'd rather have Justin Fields leading this type of game for me than Mariota. So I do have the Bears, but it's going to be a hard-fought, close game, I think, as well. I mean, the Bears have scored 29 or more the last 3 games, lost all of them. This is kind of a game I think that they break out of that slump, can still score like they have been, but they finally win one.
Next game, we have Carolina at 3-7 on the road at Baltimore, 6-3. You already know how I'm rocking. I don't have to say much, although if Baker does get the nod, I will say that he has fucked us up in the past on quite a few occasions.
Yeah.
Him and Joe Burrow have really had their number against us. He is limited weapons. He did have a lot of weapons in Cleveland when he was doing that to us. Right now, it's just DJ Moore. I know the running backs are good, but in the passing game, I don't know how much they'll be utilized. I think we'll be able to control this offense for Carolina. I am worried about the defense because they are very good and they're opportunistic. J.C. Horn, Brian Burns, we're going to have to take care of the ball. Derek Brown is definitely good as well on that front line, so Baltimore in a close game. I don't have us blowing anybody out this year. If I have us winning, I don't think we have that kind of potential to blow teams out. But I do think we have the potential to keep winning these games very close.
Well, for me, I have the Ravens, but I think Baltimore's coming off a much-needed bye, and I actually have them winning pretty convincingly in this one. It just comes down to, me trusting Lamar more than I do Baker, let alone PJ Walker, even if he were healthy, So, I did see today that Baltimore is only ranked 1 spot ahead of Carolina in pass offense, so it's going to be a game of who can come out on top of a better passing game, which I do trust Lamar in that.
That just sounds sick.
So it's
I have to say that.
I mean, I trust Lamar more than I do either of those 2 quarterbacks. I think he's a better passer than both of them. Can make more plays, obviously, with his legs. So I would say I would take the Ravens by 14 in this one because I just don't like, even though the Panthers have kind of slightly turned it around since Matt Rule got fired, they're still not a good team, and I like the Ravens a lot more than I do them.
It's fair enough. I mean, no Dobbins, no Gus. I think Mark Andrews is going to be out again, so Lamar's going to have to do it without his weapons and continue his MVP season to some.
He's going to have to go out and show why he's worth the money he wants.
Yes, indeed. A lot of money you're asking for. You definitely have to go prove that at some point, my guy. Next game, we'll keep it in the AFC North. We have Cleveland at 3-6 on the road at Buffalo, 6-3. Buffalo coming off 2 losses in a row. Cleveland still in the hunt, fighting for their life, but this is going to have to be the game that they win. This defense has been very underwhelming for Cleveland coming into the season. I would have definitely thought they were going to be a top 5-7 defense. They've been getting anything that the offense has wanted done against them, passing 300 yards, running for 200 yards, whatever the case may be. So with the dynamic ability of this Buffalo offense and the fact that they're coming off 2 losses in a row. I think they're going to be very focused at practice. They're going to be very disciplined in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I think at Buffalo big against Cleveland.
Yeah, and I guess there was a weather report that they're under like a winter storm watch for Sunday, so there's going to be like 2 feet of snow possibly before kickoff.
That changes things a little bit.
It does, but at the same time,
Chubb is a motherfucker, man.
Right. But I think the Bills are good enough to pass in that type of weather. They have Diggs. I mean, they have Gabe Davis. They can make. They don't have to go deep downfield. You can just like be smart with it. Like this is time to turn that like offensive game plan and mentality around where I don't have to make the big plays all the time. So,
and that is the perk of Josh Allen, having that strong arm to withstand this weather.
Yeah, and and with Buffalo coming off 2 straight losses, the last one being a very emotional one for them.
For you,
but I'm saying emotional loss though. Like
yeah,
the way they lost, like
no question.
You are that's where you hang your head and you like damn,
yeah, for real.
So they need a rebound in a bad way, and I do think they get one here. Especially against this Browns team that was just throttled by Miami. I mean, that I don't think that Cleveland defense can do much against with this Bills offense who's so loaded. Like all they really have is Myles Garrett, and he's having a great season. But what else do you have out there that can complement him and what he's doing for your team? It's not there this year, and you lose this game. If you lose Miami, you lose this game. Deshaun's gonna have to put on a show to make a run down the stretch, and I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, he's gonna have to pull some magic out his ass.
So give me the Bills in this one, but yeah, it's Cleveland needed that one last week to even stand a chance.
And you shit the bed. You didn't even show up, so that's pretty disgraceful if you ask me. Washington, they did show up.
Yeah.
Got a big W. They are now 5-5. They're on the road at Houston, 1-7-1. You know, probably a closer game than a lot of people are going to expect. But I do have Washington at the end coming out with a W. I don't know if Chase Young is going to come back, but you mentioned that. I don't even really think that matters. This defensive line is just wreaking havoc on anybody who they're playing against right now. Philly, Minnesota, 2 good O-lines so far this year. Yeah. Philly being one of the better ones. Minnesota really, outplaying their expectations coming into the season.
I was going to say outplaying what we expected. So
yeah. Maybe not elite like Philly or Kansas City, but
interior is very above average.
They're good.
So it's our tackles who are, I think, elite.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get into the middle, that's where we have some questions. But they've been playing much better than years past.
Yeah.
So for this game, though, I do have Washington. They're on the bubble trying to sneak into the playoffs right now at 5-5.
I can't believe I buried a team that's about to be over 500.
And they did report today that they're activating Chase Young off of the injury list. Okay. So he is going to be making his debut this Sunday against Houston. So and what a game to do it against the Houston team. You could possibly go out and get 2-3 sacks and light the world on fire by just having a great performance. But they'll probably have him on a snap count, I'd assume, to start off, especially against Houston, and the way that front seven's playing already. But with this, it's for me, Houston, I think, will put up another fight like they always seem to do. And but I don't know what else to say about it. They don't have much going for them except for Dameon Pierce right now.
Yeah.
And so I just like Washington to get it done. I mean, I could see it being like an 8-point win. Like it seems like Houston's always losing by 8 points. It seems like
it. Dameon Pierce is good. He's not great. He can't carry the team like a Derrick Henry can. And the defense is solid, but they're not good.
But Houston did just claim off waivers Eno Benjamin, so that's a nice little pickup to help.
Yeah, it's a nice
compliment Dameon Pierce.
He's more of a shifty guy, so I think that's a nice little compliment to him. Next game, we have Philly taking the first loss at 8-1, looking to bounce back on the road at Indy 4-5-1 under a new coach Jeff Saturday. I don't know. Do we know what to expect from this one? Is Jeff Saturday the next Pete Carroll, or
if
what's
he wins
going on
this
here?
one, is he up for Coach of the Year?
Not a chance in my book, man. I got Philly bouncing back strong. I think Indy played with a lot of, I don't even know what to call it, but under a new coach, not Philly, Indy, played with a lot of something under a new coach where they wanted to prove that, we believe in this guy a little bit. But I just don't think they're talented enough to stay with this Philly team. No. Shaq Leonard, it was announced today that he'll miss the rest of the season due to back surgery. Matt Ryan's going to be out there. I haven't seen him play consecutive back-to-back good games yet. So, Jonathan Taylor either he had his last good game last week. So, Philly really looking to bounce back. I know they're pissed off out there. Yeah, they're dealing with a lot of injuries, but this team is just... They were built for this. They have depth, they have talent, and I think they're going to have their way with Indy.
Yeah, for me, I have the Eagles, but I think this game for a little while during the course of the game, I think it might be a little closer than people think, just because I believe Jeff Saturday and Jonathan Taylor will be relying on the run with JT and trying to expose the porous run defense of the Eagles of late.
Right.
So they, maybe through the first half, a little into the second half, they can keep it close, but then it will get a couple big plays from Philly to kind of break it open, and we'll take off from there. But yeah, I just don't think Indy can sustain, that type of ball control all game long against a team like the Philadelphia Eagles. So yeah, I just think the Eagles have too much firepower on offense for them as well.
Moving on, we have an AFC East matchup. The New York Jets at 6-3 will take on the New England Patriots at 5-4.
It was a tough one, bro.
This is a real tough one, man. I think last time I said Bill Belichick would not lose to Zach Wilson. I have a different kind of confidence about this Jets team right now, and I don't feel as confident as I do in this Patriots team. I still feel the same way about Bill, though, and I'm going to have to go with the Patriots at home in this one.
See, this is what it comes down to for me. I have the Patriots, and it is the fact that the Patriots have won 13 straight games in this series against the Jets. And for Zach Wilson to go into Foxborough, I just don't see Bill Belichick and his defense letting him do anything spectacular.
You just don't see it.
And I think for the Jets to win, they'd need a couple either special teams or defensive touchdowns to win the game. Because
possible.
You did a great job of limiting Zach Wilson's mistakes last game you won, upsetting the Bills. Mm-hmm. But you're not going to be able to sustain that with Zach Wilson.
No.
It's just you're always going to expect and know something's coming. Mm-hmm. Something bad is coming from Zach Wilson. And that's the downfall of this team this year that they have. They have a great, great defense and a great scheme. But it is, and a great coach in Robert Saleh leading that defense. But when it comes to the offense, you got playmakers. You're missing Breece Hall, obviously, but it comes down to the quarterback play.
Yeah.
You have to have a quarterback to lead that type of team, and he's just not it. Yeah. So for me, it's Patriots easy. I'm not going to say they're going to blow them out, but because Patriots aren't built for that type of game to run away with it. But I just, Bill Belichick, when he has a streak like this on the line, he knows about it and he's aware of it. He's not going to want to lose hold of it and prove that he still runs that, has the hold on some of those teams in that division still.
Yeah.
So you got to go with the Patriots in this one.
Moving on to maybe the most disappointing team of the season, for sure, in my opinion, though they are the Los Angeles Rams at 3-6. They're on the road facing the New Orleans Saints. I'm going to have to go with the Saints in this one. I know Cooper Kupp also announced today he'll be out for the season. I don't know if Matt Stafford's going to come back coming into the season. Elbow injury, shoulder wasn't that great. At this point, there's no reason for you to come back. Season's over. I don't know, man. I think Saints do have a little bit of hope left. The NFC South is still open. Mm-hmm. Anything can happen out there. So I would like to see Winston. You mentioned that yesterday. I don't know why Dalton's still in there if Winston's healthy. I'm going to have to go with the Saints in this one.
So we've been on the same page all night. We're keeping it going. I got the Saints as well. But for me, I truly believe this game is a toss-up game. You got to look at it. The Rams are averaging just 14 points per game during their 3-game losing streak, and now you've lost Cooper Kupp to IR. So for that reason, that's a big reason I'm picking the Saints. But then you look over at the Saints, and they're only averaging 11 points per game during back-to-back losses. So putrid output from the offenses on both sides. And for me, I think this is the week you have to go back and start Jameis. You put yourself in a better situation to win this game with him. But when it comes down to it, I have the Saints regardless of who starts because I think both Jameis and Dalton can beat this banged up, spiraling Rams team.
Agreed. Who's Walford's backup? Because I think he got hurt a little bit last game, and they were talking about the backup coming in if he didn't come in for a couple plays.
I'm not totally sure.
If they get to that point, I mean, I already think they're cooked. I texted you today; they're cooked after I saw that Cup news. But
you got nothing on offense going for you except for Cup. Terrible O-line.
Your Cup just fell off the table and shattered. So
Allen Robinson's not doing nothing, and where's Donald and Ramsey in the equation on defense? They just haven't been it themselves this year.
If McVay didn't win that Super Bowl, do you think he'd be on the hot seat?
With a season like this, he'd have to be. But they're going to go out and make some moves somehow, some way.
I don't know how.
But I don't know, man. Like, you're going to have to have a really good, you're going to have a really good, like, middle to back end of the draft as you don't have, I think they don't have a pick till second or third round or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, man. But that offensive line's got to be fixed one way or the other.
Yeah. First and foremost, you always have to get the front seven situated on defense and the big guys situated up front on offense too. So I mean, that's always the key to success, man. You gotta establish that up front on both sides of the ball.
Yep.
Next game we have Detroit 3-6 on the road at the Giants 7-2. I'm going with the upset in this one, honestly. I got Detroit over the Giants. I know Giants are 7-2. They've been finding ways to win these games. I know Dayball's in the Coach of the Year conversation. Detroit is winners of 2 in a row. I know their defense is pretty putrid. Saquon Barkley, they might have the same formula they did last game. 35 carries, 13-17 from Daniel Jones. That sounds real nice to me, but I think Detroit has a chance to get this one. I know they're a little banged up here and there, but I did say the schedule eases up a little bit towards the back half, and they got 2 in a row. Giants, we don't expect them to be 7-2. We probably expected them to be about 4-3 at this point, or something like that.
Can
4-5.
Saying 8-2 next to the Giants.
I couldn't imagine saying 4-2 whenever we were talking. We're 4-1, 5-1 whenever we're talking about that. So, and I ain't gonna say 8-2 next week. I'm gonna say 7-3. I got Detroit in this one.
All right, we got our first difference of the day. I got the Giants. And it just comes down to the Lions being so bad against the run. Like, I think Saquon, with the year he's having, he's a truly bad man. He's back like he never left, and even better. Dayball's not dumb. He knows what he's gonna do. Like,
exactly.
Like, this is gonna be a ground and pound. Don't make mistakes, Daniel Jones. And I predict we even see a Kenny Golladay touchdown against his former team.
Wow.
So
that'd be sweet.
As you know, Detroit does have a chance to extend to a 3-game winning streak, but they just have too many issues around that team right now. And even though I don't believe in the Giants with the record they have, I do believe they're a much better team than Detroit. So, and being in New York, I don't like how the Lions play on the road. I gotta go with the Giants. And if you look at it, Detroit probably should have lost last week at Soldier Field.
Yeah.
They just had a great comeback. Timely, terrible mistakes by Justin Fields.
Missed extra point. There's a lot of things went into that for sure.
So I don't trust the Lions.
Fair enough. You've seen it for 30 years now. You can't trust Detroit. Moving on from our 12 o'clock games, we'll go to our 3:30 games. First of which, Las Vegas at Denver, 2-7 at
the toilet
3-6. Yeah, you can call it that. You can call it something meaner if you like. I won't bleep it out. AFC West battle preseason. We thought this would have been game of the week. Looking at the rest of these slated games on the sheet here, but wow. What a fall from grace, man. I'm gonna have to go Vegas in this game, even though they can't win a close game. But Denver just can't score. I think Vegas can at least put up 16 points.
I can't bring myself to pick Denver and Nathaniel Hackett. Even though Josh McDaniels is not any better, I think it's just
they're equally terrible.
But Hackett has had so many poor real-time in-game decisions that make you scratch your head and wonder how he's even a coach at any level. I wouldn't even want him coaching my son's pee-wee football team. Like,
Maybe that's what he needed. Jeff Saturday did coach a little high school.
but I got the Raiders. This is definitely the shit bowl of the week. Not one that I'm going to be keeping my eye on, if at all.
This is an NFL red zoner.
The only reason I'm picking the Raiders is because this is truly, truly a toss-up. Like, you can flip a coin, and that's who you're going to pick. And, I mean, I do think Denver being at home, they do have a pretty good defense. Probably their best one since 2015. But what have the Raiders done to make you...
You know what? This is going to be game of the week.
Due to the fact that they're so bad and evenly matched up that you don't know what's going to happen.
This is going to be game of the week. Raiders have no kind of defense. It's going to be 31-28.
I'm predicting Carr and Devontae to hook up frequently and just go off this game. You can tell how much they care and how much, how competitive they are.
They found their connection over the past few weeks.
They want to get one bad and try to turn this around somehow.
Yeah.
So I think that they'll go out and they'll try to take it over themselves, make it like, let's have fun like we did in college and just go out and dominate. Not going to say that they're going to go out there and run away with it, but they'll put on a show in some way or the other. Like I just truly see that coming from them because we haven't seen that game where you see replay after replay from Carr to Devontae.
Right.
So it's a perfect time to play a Denver team that's struggling just as much as you are and finally get a win because you're much better than 2-7. It's just things aren't going your way, and I don't know if you got the right coach. So it's going to be, it's I had a tough one picking this but I just couldn't bring myself to pick a Nathaniel Hackett-led team, and let alone just like Russell doesn't look like Russell.
I can't argue with any of that. We have one more division game here. Cincinnati at 5-4 on the road at Pittsburgh 3-6. Tomlin last week completed a feat not many people have done. Beat 31 teams in the NFL, all but his own. I don't think he's going to be beating Cincinnati this week, though. I got the Bengals fighting for their playoff life. They need this to stay in contention to be 6-4. I think that Super Bowl pedigree is going to shine through a little bit. I think Joe Burrow really is that guy. I know without Jamar Chase, it's going to be a little more difficult. They found a little something, though, with Joe Mixon, their last game. Yep. So I think they're going to keep going with that formula. I think a couple of teams have found that same formula. Them, Green Bay, Tampa Bay. So I got Cincinnati in this one, unfortunately.
I also have Cincinnati. But first let me just say, like, the Steelers team is much different with TJ Watt in the lineup. Like, they truly are. I don't understand it. I don't know how it works out that way, that they just transform into some different team. How, he just has that juju about him, I guess. But, I mean, he's a freaking playmaker, a game changer. But I like the Bengals in this one. They're coming off a bye, and they're still looking for their first division win of the season. So that has a lot. There's a lot riding on the line there for them. And last time they played, Joey B threw 4 interceptions. He's not throwing 4 interceptions this game, because 4 interceptions for Joey B is
he's just not doing that again.
He's just not. So and like you mentioned, Joe Mixon, they found how to win the game with him last time before they went on bye, and I think he's truly going to be a difference maker once again in the ground game, and that's just going to be the difference in this game, being able to have I think they'll have a better run game than what they have over there with Najee and his backup. I don't remember his name, but I know they had a good running game last week going finally, but is it sustainable for that Pittsburgh team? I don't know, because like I said before, I don't know if Najee's that one guy who can take over the game on the ground.
Our last afternoon game, we have America's team at 6-3 facing your team at 8-1. One team coming off a very disappointing loss, a historic loss. Dallas Cowboys were 195-0 going into the fourth quarter when leading 14 points. They ended up losing that game to the Green Bay Packers last week. You guys went in similar historic fashion in the opposite way, beating the Buffalo Bills on a crazy fumble near the goal line. Who do you have in this one? Or do I not even need to ask? Because I probably agree with you.
For me, it's a lot tougher to pick this one than people might think.
It really is.
Vikings game, or being a Vikings fan. I did pick the Vikings, but I do once again think this is going to be another classic hard-fought game that comes down to the wire. And
stop it right there. Kevin O'Connell, Mike McCarthy.
I trust Kevin O'Connell.
That's the game it's going to be. And then if it comes down to that, Kevin O'Connell 100 times out of 100.
Great point. I truly believe that too.
Because that is the game it's going to be.
Yeah.
You guys are very evenly matched.
And I think it's going to be a very big test for us because we're coming off a huge emotional win in Buffalo, where 99 times out of 100 we don't win that game, but we pulled it off, and you're riding on a high a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So are we going to see the Vikings be able to come back down to earth and in reality and get back into their bag and go to work and prepare for this game and come out Sunday and play a nice big game for a very loud US Bank Stadium that I'm expecting, especially being 325 nationally televised with Romo and Nance calling the game. I mean, it's going to be a big game. And I think, with Dallas having a very good defense led by Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs, they're very susceptible to the run.
Yeah.
And they showed that in Green Bay. And I think if we're watching the tape this week, I would like to see the Vikings have a heavy dose of Dalvin and Madison having a good rotation going. Don't just lean on one. Use them both.
Mm-hmm.
Pound the rock. Kind of use it as a Jones-Dillon duo that the Packers have. But pound the rock, control the clock, and then hit him with a couple home run shots with JJ.
That was a bar.
So
pound the rock, control the clock, hit him with a couple home run shots. Dr. Seuss over here.
But the other thing is I want to see TJ Hawkinson utilized in the red zone.
Uh-huh.
I think you kind of got to have him more involved than he was against Buffalo, especially in big situation games like these are coming down to be. Buffalo, Dallas, New England. I mean, these next 3-4 are tougher ones. I mean, Patriots are going to be a tough one too. So
yeah, for sure.
I'd like to see that kind of be more in the game plan, but. I just think coming back home to US Bank in a very loud crowd at US Bank, it's going to be a huge game, and they're going to feel it out there. These two teams will feel the energy out there. Because
the way your fans are after a win like that, they're going to come back into that game at US Bank like they would just won the fucking Final Four.
Right. And they're going to make life hard on that Dak-led offense. Yeah. And do you trust Dak enough to, even though we give up a lot of yards, do you trust him to go mistake-free and, pick apart our defense? I don't know. I think our defense is good enough, and they've proven to make timely plays and big stops in key situations. Where is Dak going to kind of break out of what he has been and kind of be that focal point leader where he can put the team on his back and lead them to a win?
Right.
I just don't see it. I just don't see it really happening. I mean, and then like you said, Mike McCarthy coaching, we kind of saw the blunders against the Packers. That's the type of stuff that the Cowboys do to shoot themselves in the foot. So, but I will say and give credit to Dallas because I think we are 2-8 with Kirk Cousins against them or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or probably not with them because going back to his Washington days, adding those up, that would be 2-8. But I think we're like
1-2, maybe
1-2 or 3 against them with Kirk. So they seem to have his number. We'll see how Kirk comes out and responds after a big game. But I got the Vikes in a close one. It's gonna be another fucking close game. On paper, right now, this is the number one game of the week.
But I've waited all day for a Sunday night. And Kansas City is at 7-2 on the road, facing the Chargers, 5-4. Earlier in the season, this was a pretty good game that the Chargers honestly had a chance to win.
When they were healthy.
Yep, when they were healthy. They are not healthy. Kansas City has added more weapons. The defense is playing a little bit better. I don't think they're going to have any trouble with this Chargers team on Sunday night.
I think they said this would be Kansas City's 9th straight win at LA Chargers. That's crazy.
That's even going back to Alex Smith, Phillip Rivers days.
Yeah.
I would have figured Phil would have got some of those. Damn.
I have the Chiefs easy in this one. The Chiefs are the team to beat in the AFC. I just don't. How do you pick against Mahomes at this point in time, especially against how banged up the Chargers are? I just don't see it, bro. I mean, I expect a big game out of Kelsey, and I think we'll see even more big plays from Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, they eased him in week 1, or the first week they had him. The second week they had him, they used him a lot more, and you can definitely tell he's going to be a big weapon going forward for that team. Yeah, I just don't see it, man. Chargers is just too banged up. Chiefs got too much. I got Chiefs big in this one right now.
Chargers are a team that you kind of look at it and just kind of be like, got to rest up for next season.
What could have been. Cap off the week, we have Monday night. San Francisco at 5-4 on the road at Arizona 4-6. NFC West battle. Not sure if we're gonna have Kyler Murray back. I believe we are. I think it was a hamstring injury.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll sit out one more week or he'll play. I don't know.
I'm not sure. I mean,
I will say if
new map drops tomorrow.
If he's out, I do have confidence that Colt McCoy can keep this a close game.
He played well last year. He played well last week. He doesn't seem to make a lot of mistakes, but he's not going to win you the game either.
No,
but
they're going to have some things go their way.
I also think Jimmy Garoppolo's not a quarterback who's going to win them the game. So you're going to have a chance if that's the case.
It's a division game. I just see it being another close-fought game between two division rivals, even with the Niners having a lot more talent on their side, I think, especially with a good defense that they have.
Yeah.
I do have the Niners winning, but it's going to come down to the Niners and their running game. That would just be too much for Arizona in the end, I think. Having McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell back there, that tandem, I just don't think Arizona can handle them.
No, I agree with that. I got San Francisco in this game as well, if I didn't say so already. Arizona's one of those teams, man. A lot of talent, but there's just something about them that just really turns me off on him. I don't know what it is. If it's just Kyler, if it's the combination of him and Cliff.
I think it's a combination between him and Cliff, bro. It's a bad pairing, and just the antics I've been seeing from Kyler this season has rubbed me the wrong way. Like, before the season started, I wasn't so low on him. Like, I liked his ability and how he's able to play, but he will never strike me as a franchise signal caller that you want leading your team for years and years and years. Like, he's not worth that money that they paid him. It's just, he
was probably like 16 games, 182.
He has some spectacular plays out there sometimes when he plays, but he doesn't have the connection with D-Hop that I thought he would. And that's disappointing because now you're wasting D-Hop and his ability, especially when he's on the brink of being out of his prime.
Can we just redraft all teams or all good quarterbacks, get a good receiver, and then we go from there?
But you got Rondale Moore kind of popping up on the scene finally and improving. I think they'll get Hollywood Brown back by end of the month probably. So they can still fight it out and battle in that division. It's just you gotta put the bullshit aside and stop complaining, stop having antics on the sideline. Like, figure out a common ground between coach, quarterback and his receivers, and just come together and play lights out football. I mean, you have the talent to do that. Like, Kyler is very great utilizing his legs and playing backyard kind of like football, scrambling, throwing it long. I mean, looks like a chicken with his head cut off running around out there. But, I mean, he is good at what he does. He's just not elite by any means.
Only running, I would say that's his only elite skill out there.
Yeah, because the passing, he makes very questionable decisions.
Yeah, he has the ability to be elite in passing, but he does make questionable decisions. I don't know if that's...
He's not a quarterback I trust when the game's on the line.
No, not at all. I don't care about no Hail Mary or whatever happened in the past. He's not one of those guys. There's a select few. There's not a lot of them. So, I mean, it's not really a knock per se.
Yeah.
But he's not one of them for sure.
No.
Moving on. I know you and I played running back in the day. We don't always show a lot of love to the defensive side of the ball. Last week, we did our MVP top 5 with our honorable mentions. One of your honorable mentions was Micah Parsons, linebacker edge from the Dallas Cowboys. So this week, I just wanted to run through your top 5 defensive player of the year candidates, if you have 5, and maybe honorable mention if you have one of those.
I have 2 honorable mentions right now. So I have a list. I have a list through 7. So,
okay. Go ahead, give me your 2 honorables first.
The first one's gonna be Von Miller. I think what he brings to that defense over there in Buffalo, I mean, that was their missing piece that they needed for a healthy defense, I believe. He's at 18 total tackles, 8 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, 2 pass defended, and 1 forced fumble. I mean, he's getting after it. He's showing what he's made of. He's probably left a few plays out there that he wants back, but he's going up against some more guys that have just better numbers. I think that's why he doesn't make it.
He's my honorable too. Not to cut you off, but I know you're about to go into your second. My reasons he's not in my 5. That offense is really good. For the most part, the guys that I have on my 5 have offenses that really aren't elite. I mean, one of them is okay that I would like to have on my team, but the other 4 are no good. Outside of that, you mentioned that he adds something to this defense when healthy, an edge rusher that they didn't have. They have Ed Oliver, who's good. They have Milano, who's a good linebacker. But really nothing up front where they can get off that tackle and get to the quarterback quick, fast, in a hurry. I think that's what he added to this team. Thirdly, I just don't think the volume anymore. At his age, he's not out there as much as he used to be.
No, he's up there in age. He's not 2015 Von.
No.
So, but to be playing at a level where he's competing with being in that conversation is testament to what kind of player he is.
No question. And my last point before I let you finish, he went to a team that was number 1 in a lot of categories across the board defensively last year. So for that reason, I'd have you have honorable mention, but
yeah,
I mean, that's no slander on your name. You're number 6. I had everybody in the league on my list. So
yeah, he was. I mean, I originally had him 6, but then I went based off. I was comparing a lot of just overall numbers for this list for me, and seeing, because I know there's a lot of season left,
right?
And so if I'm making this list right now, it's halfway through the season. I know there's more plays to be made. But this is a list for me, like, what have you done for these teams so far, and how big of a contribution are you making to put your teams in winning situations?
Right.
So my 6th guy is Nick Bosa. I couldn't put him in my top 5 just because I like the numbers up top a little more.
Wow.
But yeah, 27 total tackles, 9.5 sacks. 11 tackles for losses. And the thing is when it came down to it, I looked and I went and looked at, being able to defend passes and force fumbles and fumble recoveries and all that, like those big splash plays on defense.
Right.
And he doesn't have any of those right now.
Right.
So that kind of factored into my reason why he's not in my top 5.
That's fair.
So that's kind of where I went with that. I know people probably might hate me for not, having him in my top 5, but I'm not discrediting. Like I said, a lot of season left. Like, he's going to make plays.
Yeah.
So just right now, he's outside of my top 5. Like, but I do love the player Nick Bosa is. Without him on that defense, it's a different defense.
No question.
We all know that.
No question. For me, I get into my 5th unless you want to go first.
I can go first.
Go ahead.
My 5th is Myles Garrett.
Okay.
I thought I expected up to this point to be a better season for him. He's just he's part of a defense that's very bad.
I agree, man.
And
disappointing.
24 total tackles, 7.5 sacks, which are going to go up. 8 tackles for losses, 2 passes defended, and 2 forced fumbles. I mean, he's a wrecking ball out there, and he's gonna pat those numbers as the season goes on. Like, he might climb this list for me.
Yeah.
But right now he's at 5, and I just think he's the lone piece on that defense that makes that thing go. And with their offense being the way it is, like, he is a game changer to be able to make plays and make stops, turn the ball over, and get him the ball back. So
yeah,
he's a different specimen out there. And I mean, wasn't he your preseason pick?
He was my preseason, yeah.
So there's still time for him to get there,
yeah.
But right now, 5 for me. I love the player. I mean, I love the way he plays. I think he's just stuck in a situation where I'd like to see him on a different team, honestly, and a different defense, because he deserves to win games and be a part of something special. Like, kind of like Von Miller. Like, I don't want to see him go so long with a mediocre to less than mediocre team, and then finally towards the back end of his career he's with like Buffalo, like Von Miller is, and
right.
He has 1 or 2 years left of good numbers, and like you're wishing, like, damn, I wish I would have been a part of this longer. But that's what comes with it, with being on a team like Cleveland. They're just, and like I said, maybe they turn things around a little bit with Deshaun coming back, but I don't see much firepower on that Cleveland defense besides Myles Garrett.
You mentioned Von Miller, man. I think he's just so impactful. One of the most clutch defenders.
There's so many things that are on the field that the eye doesn't see.
Yeah.
Like, when they're not around to play and what they do. That's also kind of like what I was thinking about. Like, players who don't have to be around the ball but can still affect the play.
I think with him, Garrett, a lot of these guys on my list, to your point right there, are going to be defensive linemen, edge players, linebackers, just because they are closer to the ball.
That's all it is for me, is edge players, because I feel like when you are making a impact, rushing the passer, getting sacks, forcing fumbles, and even being able to get your hands up and defend passes, you're more of it's hard for.
You're affecting the game way more than
a cornerback or a safety, and like that's why I think a lot of these guys.
Which makes my number 5 crazy.
Which is
Rookie of the Year,
Sauce Gardner.
Sauce Gardner.
I mean, I debated it, but there's just, these edge rushers are just doing so much for their teams that he will be in that conversation at one point.
I mean, I'm putting him here. I mean, just because. 44 tackles, 30 solo, 3 tackles for loss, 2 picks. He's impacting winning more than some of these guys on this list ahead of us. He's not giving up catches. I mean,
numbers speak for themselves.
When we look at each other, can't say anything. That's all. I mean, what can you say, man?
I said it, bro. I said
this is ridiculous right now.
I wanted so badly. I can't. Who did I pick as my defensive rookie of the year?
Hutchinson. Because he's going to be closer to the ball. And more opportunities to make sacks, make plays on the ball.
Wanted to put Sauce Gardner in there.
I did put Sauce.
But I figured it might be hard depending on... I said, he'd probably need a handful of picks to be considered for it. And I think he will get there. Just how he shuts down receivers, bro. Like, no one wants to throw to him.
It's beautiful. My favorite 2 positions to watch on film are DB and O-line. It's just beautiful to watch a great DB and just to watch an O-lineman just
I truly think
kill
that Sauce
somebody on the block is amazing to me.
I think Sauce is a generational talent when it comes to football.
Yeah.
Because he's doing things that you can't teach or coach.
No question. Who you got at number 4?
Number 4 for me is Max Crosby. And... I mean, he's on a team that is so bad number-wise this year that was expected to be great.
Yeah.
But the way he's producing for that defense, who is not good, is astonishing to me. I mean, he's got 57 total tackles, 7 sacks, 14 tackles for losses, 2 passes defended, 1 fumble, forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. Like, he's doing it all by himself out there.
His tackle numbers are crazy.
And I mean, he
was an honorable mention for me.
Okay. I mean, and my next guy is gonna be probably looked at like questionable, but I had to do it. It's just Max Crosby for me. I mean, to play through the adversity that he is with that type of team and put up Defensive Player of the Year numbers, like, that's credit to a great player.
Yeah, for sure. My number 4, somebody you mentioned earlier, Myles Garrett. He was my preseason Defensive Player of the Year. For me, it was between him and another guy we'll probably get to later. He has dealt with a little bit of injury, similar to your honorable mention, I think, was Nick Bosa, who has also missed a game. Just hasn't been as impactful as I thought he would. And like you said, we're halfway through the season. Those numbers will go up. I think to go along with those 7.5 sacks, he has 11 QB hits. So
yeah.
2 hits on the quarterback per game. I would like to see that get up to 3 or 4. I think he has the ability to do it. At end, it can be a little tough when you're not a speed guy. You're going to get the tackle. You're going to get a chip from the tight end. You're going to get a chip from the running back. Last year, though, you were very productive. I expect you to get back to that now that you're more healthy, coming off a bye. I think this is when you're really expected to go.
Yeah, and I think he's gonna outperform the numbers he already has. I really do.
Yeah, second half I think will be close to double his production in the first half.
Yeah, and I think Deshaun coming back is gonna give a little boost to that team.
Yeah,
like confidence wise.
Yeah,
and so they'll play with a little bit more swag, I think, and Garrett's gonna want to take it to those tackles and get to the quarterback and really make a name for himself. So. Yeah, he's got a lot of season left ahead of him to do damage. My third, man, you're gonna look at me crazy, bro. But you know I'm coming with Brother Z.
I got him too. At 3.
Okay, you do?
Yeah.
I'm like, I got a feeling that people were gonna look at me crazy saying that. But the way he's impacting games though is, I mean, he's only got 29 total tackles.
14 for loss.
But 14 for loss, 9.5 sacks.
I think that leads the league too. 14 for loss.
And it does. And he's got 4 passes defended. Like, when we need to play, this man goes and makes it. That's a true difference maker on a defense.
Mm-hmm.
And he can change games by stopping behind the line of scrimmage. And the beauty of it is, the Packers are paying him $11.4 million to play for us this year. So I'm excited. I mean, I hope he stays healthy because I know he's a couple times in the past couple games he's had to be tended to on the ground with, I think it's a knee issue or whatever, knee contusion. But just hope he stays healthy because I think he's on pace to really do some damage this year.
I agree. If you have more to say about him, you can. I know that's your guy.
I
have him at 3 as well. So
I just think as of late, Danielle Hunter has been kind of, I feel like, feeding off of him more and starting to show up a little bit more. But without Zadarius Smith, this defense would be in big trouble.
I agree. Outside of everything you said, I think as far as additions in the offseason defensively, if you account for draft picks or just acquisitions, he was by far the biggest one. Not only just because he's on this list, but because of everything you mentioned. He's been able to do it, not at all 3 levels, because he's not really in the defensive backfield a lot.
Yeah.
But 14 tackles for loss is impressive, and he's making a lot of big plays on third down, a lot of big tackles. Him and Patrick Peterson, Harrison Smith are making a lot of big plays for you guys. So,
yeah.
That's where I didn't want to put those guys in there. I almost wanted to put you guys in there as a team together because that's just how I feel like you've been playing.
They're just playing
in the
great
clutch
as a
like
unit.
that.
You know, they're coming together as a unit, and I think it helps having Harrison, P2, and Zadarius as our leaders back there because
vets.
They are key vets in that defense. We have a lot of young depth and talent, but they're young pieces, and they're still learning how to play. And they're coaching them out there on the fly and getting them in the right position. And it's truly, I've never seen a Vikings team have to, kind of play the way they do. they're fighters, they're dogs. But look, coming to this list, I had to put Za'Darius in my top 3 just because of the sole impact he's had on this defense.
Well, you got it too.
Matthew Judon. I
thought you'd have him. I don't have him on mine.
I just think that the Patriots aren't the greatest team, but the man goes out there and balls. I mean, you could have the same argument with him as Z. Like without him on that team,
yeah,
like there is nothing.
They're very similar style players too.
And I mean, 35 total tackles, a little bit better than Za'Darius. 11. He leads the league with 11.5 sacks, 10 tackles for losses, 3 passes defended, and 1 forced fumble. I mean, he's making splash plays out there for that defense. He's keeping them in games, and you know Bill Belichick is loving that man every second that he gets to coach him. So,
no question.
He's the true leader on that defense, and you take him away, and what do you really have with that defense?
I think they have a few pieces. They have Barmore up front. They drafted a DB who's really good. I can't remember his name right now, but he's having a really good rookie season. But he's by far and away the best player on that unit over there.
It's going to be that's why when I was making this list, I'm thinking, I can't wait till Thanksgiving night when these guys go up against each other.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a fun battle.
It's going to be a Spider-Man meme. Let's just play just alike.
And it's going to be a chess match between, I think, Donatello and Bill Belichick. I think it's going to be a battle of 2 defenses who, are going up against offenses that, I mean, we're a better offense than the Patriots, I'll say. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to Bill's defense going up against our offense, we know they're going to be tough. He's going to throw stuff at us that we haven't seen, and he's going to want to shut down JJ, obviously. So it's going to be a game where I don't know if you can really lean on the run too much against this defense.
Right.
So you're going to have key contributors in TJ Hawkinson, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne. And that's really going to be a game where we see what can Kirk do.
That'll be a great test for Kirk, because we know Buffalo has a good defense, but they were limited a little bit. I mean, Bill Belichick is just that guy, man.
He's
defensive mastermind, man.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a good test for Kirk for sure. I'll say my second pick because I'm sure we both have the same first pick. Bosa for me.
Bosa.
Yeah. 9.5 sacks. You mentioned all the numbers earlier. I just think him being the anchor, he's just so consistent and being part of one of the best defensive units in the league. I know Fred Warner, you could put him in the best conversation for middle linebacker as well. I think it's really those 2 guys that anchor this defense. If you're not really following the league too closely, you don't know anybody in that defensive secondary, but they are playing well as well. But I really just think it's Bosa being able to generate that pressure on the quarterback. Him and those guys up front are really the difference in the San Francisco defense every year, and that's really what this team's identity is being able to dominate in the offensive line and defensive line. So
he's truly that difference maker.
I got to put him up there for me.
It just comes down to that. I think that the offseason acquisitions and then the way they've drafted for that defense has been phenomenal. I mean, there's obviously the secondary, like you said, a lot of people might not know who they are, but they've acquired so many great key pieces to that defense where there's playmakers all over that defense, and that's why they're the number 1 ranked defense in the league. And so and Bosa has a lot to do with that, obviously. But if Bosa has to miss a game or 2, I think they're still contending for that number 1 ranked spot. So it's not that
that's fair,
not a game changer. It's just they've loaded that defense up to be what it is today, and that's what their identity is having a strong running game and a superb defense, and that does win games. It wins a lot of games, but I'm it's just for me. It came down to, like I said, he hasn't been able to really affect the pass besides the sacks, and he hasn't forced many turnovers. Like, I like to see edge rushers that, since I have all edge rushers, like, you got to be able to hit and either get your hands up and bat down balls, or really make a hit and force a fumble and get a fumble recovery or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's why our number 1 guy is a terror all over the field.
Micah,
man, like 43 tackles, 8 sacks, 9 for tackle for losses, 2 passes defended, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, and 1 touchdown. Like, the man does it all out there for that defense. Now, you really take him away from that defense, and you got...
You saw what you had. Historically bad.
Bad. And Trayvon Diggs by himself can't save that defense.
I mean, the run defense isn't any good.
It's not, but
he's used strictly as a pass rusher.
And that's why he was like, I was questioning what they were doing using him in the game plan. Like, what were they doing last week against Green Bay? Because his name wasn't being called. He only had 8 quarterback rushes.
Yeah.
So he didn't have any pressures. It was a weird game for them, and that's going to change against us because they're going to do everything they can to stop us. So, I mean, I'm expecting to see a lot of Micah trying to get after Kirk, and that's why I'm worried about Darrisaw possibly being out because we need him badly.
That's tough, yeah.
So, but with the man does so much on his own to make splash plays for that defense. How can you not put him number 1? Like, he is he's a game changer. He's a game wrecker. I mean, I think he rushes the passer better than anyone in the league too.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned preseason I had Myles Garrett. This was the other guy I was considering, but I really think it's between him and TJ Watt as far as impact goes. I mean, Myles Garrett's great, like really great, but Micah and TJ just they're different out there, and you can see it. You can see it affects both sides of the ball.
And we know we'd possibly be talking about a second year in a row Defensive Player of the Year from TJ if he played the whole season.
That week 1 was ridiculous.
Like, he's better than Micah.
I would have to agree.
And it's just
so
slightly
far, yeah.
Because I would put them 1A, 1B.
Yeah. They're by far the 2 best.
I mean, they're head and shoulders above
if
the
you
other
want to talk pass rushers, yeah.
Edge rushers, they're head and shoulders.
We're leaving out Donald and all those guys in the interior.
Head and shoulders above the other edge rushers in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they just have I don't know what it is. They just got some other gene in them that makes them...
This is Khalil Mack, Von Miller, back when they were doing what they were doing in their prime.
Completely agree. And they might be even a little better just because I think they're quicker than them.
They are.
And they have, I really believe they have better pass rush moves too. Micah he has no quit in him, and he's fast as hell out there when he's rushing the passer. It's been a while since we've seen something like it. Obviously, we have TJ, but he's, it's so bad.
They do it different ways.
I wish he would have never got hurt tore his pec, whatever, his pec. Is that what it was?
I think so.
If that doesn't happen, he's playing fully healthy all year long, and Micah's playing healthy all year long. Like, this is a battle for the ages to get Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, it would be. The fact that he's coming back, I think, is crazy. Isn't that usually that should last you the whole season, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think. See, that's where I'm confused. I don't know if it was like torn, or if it was just like a bad strain or whatever. But it didn't require surgery, is what it was. So, like, that was the saving grace for him. So he's obviously playing with some sort of, I'm guessing, wrap or tape underneath, or I don't know. But I mean, he came back first game, and he still affected the game. So.
Early, especially.
It's unbelievable what those two can do. So, but at this point, it's just you got to look at the game overall. And even when Micah's not around the football, he's affecting the line of scrimmage in huge ways that it just goes unseen because you're following the ball on TV all the time.
I've been thinking about this for a couple weeks now. Is quarterback the hardest position to play anymore? They make so many rules to benefit you.
Yeah.
I can't touch you. I can't hit you.
And to be an edge rusher.
Finger hits your face mask like that and it's 15 yards in the first down. To be someone like an offensive lineman and have to guard these dudes, not be able to hold them. And these motherfuckers are mean. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Between the lines, it's a different animal.
I don't know. I'm not saying O-line's are the position. I mean, because DB's tough as fuck too. You got to backpedal as fast as Tyreek Hill's running forward. So, I mean, and mirror every movement he's doing. So, I don't know if quarterback's the hardest position anymore. I could see there was a time where it
I
used
think
to be
it's the
for
hardest
sure.
position when it comes down to
Mentally,
Can you be a leader and are you mentally tough? Like, and do you have that X factor gene in you where you can?
see, I think we just have that perception of defensive players that they can't be in the books and really be advantageous because of their mental ability. But
Right.
you've seen the clip of Bill Belichick talking about the pick on Peyton Manning that Ed Reed had, where he ran towards the middle, turned his back, and then sprinted towards the other way because he knew once he did that, Peyton would do this. So he kind of reacted to what Peyton would do, and I don't know. There are a lot of defensive players, and the great ones are smart like that. So
for sure. They read. That's like, we don't win against Buffalo without P2. He knew he studied Allen's tendencies, and he knew what he was gonna do. That's why he undercut that route in the end zone to seal the game. Like, I mean, it's when players, because look at P2's career as a whole, what he did in Arizona,
phenomenal,
just beast,
top tier.
Like, you can't ask for better. And he has the dog mentality in him, and now he's a veteran leader who has brought these young guys underneath his wing and has really kind of developed them on his own. It's D-back specifically,
right?
But he's just so smart, and now I think he knows he's lost a step, and like he's got to play differently, and so he's kind of getting back into his bag in different ways, like watching film differently and seeing what he can pick up on these guys, these great quarterbacks, that what they're doing, what they're going to do in certain situations. That's what sets you apart from being a great player to a Hall of Famer.
Right. You got anything else on this topic?
No, man. We're going to have to probably do some rookie stuff next.
That'd be fine with me. This rookie class has been really good.
It's been a fun season to watch this rookie class.
Yeah, some unfortunate injuries for sure.
Yep.
But, I mean, that goes with any class, any position, every year. So we expect that to happen. But definitely still, even with those injuries, a lot of fun guys so far this year. Wide receivers, sure. DBs, D linemen, O linemen, running back, shit.
Yeah.
You name it. Maybe not tight end so far. I don't know if I've heard any big tight end names out the rookie position yet.
I think the biggest one I've heard so far, just because of the past couple of games, is Cade Otton, because Tom Brady's throwing them the ball. But other than that, I would say Isaiah Likely.
Oh, of course, Isaiah Likely. Shame on me. Yeah, we got to get out of here on that, man. That's it for me. No Gravediggers this week. And no more 2 teams will be eliminated each week either. We'll be going 1 team per week from here on out. We'll go about that. I don't know. Alternate weeks, and then we'll debate them. Or
you'll start the first week when we come back to it. Give your reasons why, and if I have questions on it, I'll kind of throw them out there, and we'll kind of have a little spirited debate about it if we don't agree. But I think for the most part we agree on a lot of stuff. So
I was thinking that today. We really are. We're in agreement on a lot.
So next week's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be another great week of games. We're getting down to the nitty gritty of this season, of when we're finding out who the real contenders are. So it's and now we're seeing, based on this last weekend, we're seeing a few teams kind of trying to revive their season and then save themselves. So that adds a whole different dimension to the season.
Yes, it does.
So it's going to be fun, this last little stretch of the second half of the season.
That's fun when teams don't lay down and die.
I love it. That's what being a pro is all about.
Yeah. I like to see 4-10 teams beating 10-4 teams at the end of the season.
Yeah, it changes the dimension. Seedings are on the line. Like, we can't just look at the seedings right now and go, okay, that's going to be the playoffs. Like, you'd be stupid to do that. Like, crazy shit happens.
Mm-hmm.
Teams don't come to play sometime. Other teams show up when they're the lesser opponent. And that's what being a professional athlete, especially in the NFL, is all about. Like, we're here to win and compete at the highest level. There's one goal. Yes, we get paid millions, but there's one goal, and that's to get to the Super Bowl and win that bitch. Like, we want the rings. We want the Lombardi. That's the only goal there is in the NFL, and that's the only goal there should be, is hoisting that thing at the end of the season. Anything else is a failure.
And on that note, we'll get out of here. Until next time.